Thank you, Paige. Thank you all for joining this morning or this afternoon, wherever you find yourselves. Happy Friday. Buenos dias. It's so great to see so many people here together. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. We're all working towards similar goals here. And it's great to see that you took some time out of your week to come together. And hopefully in this session, you will leave with some tools or at least some questions and ideas that you can take back that will hopefully make your work a little easier, or see how we can help each other as we're all part of this much larger community working to end hunger. Before I pull up my slides, I want to do a quick poll and just see who we have in the room, in the Zoom room with us. So you're going to see a quick poll that's just asking, what type of organization are you from? Who are you representing today? So we have corporate, nonprofit, education, government, philanthropy, and other, So I see the majority of us that have completed this poll are in the nonprofit sector, about 74%, about 10% from education, and about 15% from government. So thank you for filling that out. It's great to see who we all have in our group with us today. And that will help me tailor this a little bit to hopefully give you some helpful tools to take with you after the session. So let me pull up slides here and we'll get started. I am also in the nonprofit sector. I am the program director at Move for Hunger, which is a nonprofit organization that I will be focusing my presentation on today. And let's get started. So again, thank you for joining. Welcome to this workshop session of building cross-sector partnerships to fight hunger, or to fight food waste and hunger. My name is Stephanie Delos. I'm the Director of Programming at Move for Hunger, and it's an honor to be here with you all today. So our objective today during this session is to discover possibilities of new potential partnerships that will allow you to fulfill your mission more efficiently. I'm using this word partnerships here as a very general term. I know sometimes at nonprofits, we try to specify if we're referring to financial partnerships or sponsorships. Here in this session, I really want to use partnerships very generally, whether that is people that are donating to your organization financially, whether they are donating services or volunteering, or just simply collaborating in some type of way to help your operations run more efficiently. I've always been inspired by this quote. You are probably already familiar with it, but I thought it would be great to just bring it all together. If you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together. So in the spirit of that, this session, we will be talking about partnerships and how to increase our partnerships to help us go farther together. A quick overview, I'm going to talk briefly about the problem. I'm going to jump into Move for Hunger's story from start to where we are today and our current impact. I will discuss the power of cross-sector collaboration, also what makes partnerships work, and we'll look at a few case studies. After going through this, I do have some questions that I would like to leave you with. If we have time, we can work through some of those questions on this session. And at the end, we also will have some time for questions. So as Paige said in the beginning, if you have any questions throughout this presentation, you're welcome to include those questions in the Q&A, and we will have some time at the end to discuss. Also, these slides will be shared after this presentation, and you will have access to these afterwards if you want to refer back. Okay, so we did our poll in the beginning. So we're going to look at the problem, and I'm sure most of these numbers you're already familiar with, but just to keep us all on the same page. In the United States, 30 to 40%, depending on what report you're looking at, 30 to 40% of all food grown, processed, and transported in the United States will go to waste. It's a pretty large percentage. And at the same time, we have over 47 million people that are experiencing food insecurity, which is including 1 in 5 children in our nation. When we see these two issues side by side, If we recovered about half of the food being wasted, we could feed every hungry person in the United States 3 meals a day, every day. So these numbers are pretty staggering. We've heard the 47 million multiple times already on some presentations this morning. When we think of 1 in 5 children, it should not be happening in this country, which is why we're all here and why we're all involved in this work, of course. Many people that are very passionate about hunger relief aren't as aware of the food waste issue. So there are still, as we see here, 30 to 40% of all food in our country is going to waste. And we see that in all areas of the supply chain. So from farms, food that is being left in farms, produce that is being left on farms that just goes to waste. Sometimes it's tilled back into the land. Food that is not properly packaged onto trucks and is lost in transportation or is damaged in transportation and unfortunately has to go to waste. Large companies, food manufacturers or distributors that might have ordered a surplus of food, not accurately having their orders in a complete system, might have to get rid of some of their food in the end, and maybe they don't have a sustainability process in place. So we see that the food that is going to waste, this is really happening at all different areas of the supply chain, all the way down to individuals. When you go grocery shopping and you take that food home, we've all been guilty of at some point doing this photo here in the top left where we end up throwing some of the food away. So what can we do to solve this, and how can we bridge the gap between these two issues that we're currently facing? At Move for Hunger, we're a national nonprofit organization that mobilizes transportation networks to deliver surplus food to communities in need. And I'm going to break that down a little bit, starting from our beginning. So our founder, Adam Lowy, who's our current executive director, his family has owned a moving company in New Jersey for over 100 years. And while he was working with his family's moving company, he saw how much food people would throw away every time they moved. So whatever was left in their pantry, food that was still unopened, unexpired, totally fine, were just being left behind. And just like most moving companies, the company would just throw it away if it wasn't something that they were told to package up and move along with the rest of the family belongings. So Adam saw this and he kindly just started asking people, would you like to donate this food when you move so that it doesn't go to waste? And he personally was taking this food and delivering it to his local food bank. In the first month, just by doing his job, he was able to donate over 300 pounds of non-perishable food. And so he started doing this month after month, and his family thought, could you imagine if every moving company around the country did this when people moved? Because we're just one company, but there's a whole industry of moving companies. Imagine if everybody participated the same way that we did and collected food when people moved. So that is how Move for Hunger was born. We were born out of the moving industry, hence the name Move for Hunger. And since then, we have grown our network quite a bit. To date, we have over 1,300 movers that are part of our network. So we have moving companies across the US and Canada that are part of the Move for Hunger network. So we help give them tools on how to implement Donate Your Food When You Move into their daily operations so that it's just another service they can offer their clients. And then our movers also help us throughout our other programs, which I'll touch on here in just a moment. After we started our mover program, a few years later, as an organization, we realized, well, there's also a lot of people moving in and out of apartment communities, and they don't always use a mover. So how can we also capture some of that food that is currently going to waste? So our multifamily program was born. In our multifamily program, communities can do similar work. So when residents move out, they can leave behind any unopened, unexpired, non-perishable food that they would like to donate. So we train the properties on how to implement that and how to communicate that when their residents move out. And then our multifamily properties, along with our movers too, they also host food drives throughout the year. And we try to make it as easy as possible. We provide really fun campaigns throughout the year. We will provide free flyers for them, customize. Also these food collection bags that they can pass out ahead of time so that residents know during these certain dates they can fill the bag and drop it off at the leasing office. So it's a really great way for them to fulfill some of their resident engagement goals, which a lot of property management companies have. And it's a great way to create community, and it provides opportunities to give back. So for many years, Move for Hunger was just working with the moving industry and multifamily, particularly picking up food in small quantities that were non-perishable from resident move-outs, from food drives. And then during the pandemic, we started getting a lot of calls for bulk food donations, both fresh and non-perishable. So we were very excited at the opportunity to be able to transport larger quantities of food that would make a bigger impact. So with that, we started our charity freight network. The network actually came together last year in 2024 because we started doing so many of these bulk transports. So through this program, we're able to transport food in large quantities. Because before we originally started asking our movers to help with our bulk food donations, and we soon realized some of our limitations. One, many moving companies have geographical limitations and they aren't able to transport maybe out of a certain region or past a certain mileage. Also, a lot of the fresh food requires refrigerated trucks, which most moving companies, if any, don't have refrigerated trucks. So we had to figure out what to do. So we started contracting different freight and logistics companies to help us handle these loads. We don't charge the people donating the food, and we don't charge the food bank or whoever's receiving the food. So we started building our network of freight and logistics companies, and then we formalized it into what we call our charity freight network last year. And this network is a network of freight and logistics companies that help us with our bulk food donations throughout the year, and they commit to giving us donated loads, a certain amount of donated loads a year, as well as discounted loads whenever we contract with them. So this has been a really big game changer for the organization, and it's allowed us to grow our impact exponentially because we're able to move so much more food in such a shorter amount of time because of the accessibility of having these trucks in our network. So a quick summary of our current network. So we have our 1,300 plus movers around the US and Canada that are moving food donations, so implementing in their daily operations, and then they're also helping us in our other programs as well. I may not have mentioned that, but our movers also help us pick up food from our multifamily properties. They will also help us pick up food if there are large food drives or large community events that are going on that need additional transportation support. So anytime we're moving generally non-perishable food, our movers are able to help, and we call on them to help us transport that. We currently have over 2,700 multifamily communities as part of our network that are collecting food donations throughout the year. And again, those are through resident move-outs or food drives. Once the community has collected food donations, they will notify us, and then we will reach out to someone in our transportation network to go pick up the food and deliver it to the local food bank. And currently, we have 16 members of our charity freight network. So those are the freight and logistics companies that transport bulk food donations to food banks and pantries as part of our charity freight network. So this is who is handling all of our large bulk food donations. Our impact as an organization, so our network has delivered more than 68 million pounds of food to food banks and pantries. And this is enough to provide 57 million meals to neighbors facing food insecurity. So just to summarize, at Move for Hunger, we're focused on transportation and helping fill gaps to move more food and get it delivered to food banks and food pantries and agencies that are distributing this food for free. So I'm going to shift a little bit here and talk more about the collaboration and the partnership piece. So the power of cross-sector collaboration. So ending hunger and reducing waste requires everyone's participation. Each sector brings something unique: logistics, awareness, engagement, resources, trust. So here I put a little graphic of some of the different parts of our network that are coming from all different sectors that come together to work to reduce food waste and end hunger. We started with our moving companies, of course, 16 years ago, that have been the backbone of our organization, that provide logistics, transportation support for the community. We have our multifamily communities that are collecting food to help feed hungry neighbors. I put amazing humans here because there's so many other amazing humans that may not fall into one of these other categories that support Move for Hunger in different ways, whether it's through volunteering or hosting CSR events. A lot of amazing humans that also help us fulfill our mission. Of course, we have philanthropic supporters that are financially donating to Move for Hunger, which allows us to provide so much transportation free of charge to everybody that wants to either collect food or transport or donate large amounts of food. And then our charity freight network, which started last year, that is helping us transport food in bulk to different hunger relief agencies across the country. So I find it so interesting at Move for Hunger because we have really engaged different sectors that traditionally, historically, aren't involved in hunger relief. Usually when you think of hunger relief, the movement to end hunger, you don't think about moving companies, you don't think about apartment communities, but I want to use this as an example that we can engage different sectors into our work, and they can help us do so much more than we could do on our own. So just to be clear, at Move for Hunger, we own 0 trucks. We do not own one single vehicle at Move for Hunger, but we have access to this huge network that we've built because we wanted to provide opportunities of collaboration and opportunities for people to give back and engage in our work with us. So what makes partnerships work? A lot of times when I talk about the work at Move for Hunger, people will ask, why do those people even want to get involved with you? Why do they care? So there's a few different reasons. One, we have shared goals. Of course, reducing food waste, feeding the hungry, who can say no to that? It's something that everybody has some type of interest in. It doesn't feel good knowing that there's so much food going to waste, and at the same time, we have 47 million hungry Americans. So those goals are very clear. Partnerships also work because we're able to fill some gaps. So at Move for Hunger, we're able to fill the gap of transportation. So often, as we see, there's many companies, many organizations that might have surplus food. They don't have a way to get it to the food bank, or they don't have the capacity on their staff to create a sustainability plan or a charitable plan to give that food back. So we're filling in that gap to make it as easy as possible by providing transportation and providing the logistics to get that food to where it needs to go. And in that process, we're providing charitable opportunities to these companies, whether it's a farm or a food manufacturer, a food distributor, a grocery chain that wants to give back because they also don't want this food to go to waste. And then there's mutual support. So through this process, we've learned that collaborative efforts support each other's goals. So in each of these individual industries that we have engaged, we've seen that there are certain things that motivate them or are going to be of interest of them to work with us. So for example, in the moving industry is very focused on building trust in their brand. Unfortunately, you might have seen or heard different news articles or different stories in different parts of the country where maybe someone was scammed by a mover or their personal property was damaged during a move. So in the moving industry, they're very aware of these type of scammers. And so movers want to show that they're good people. They want to show that they're trustworthy, and participating in programs like Move for Hunger help build that trust to the public. When we're looking at the multifamily industry, we see that one of their top goals is resident engagement. Most of the large property management companies have resident engagement goals every year that they are trying to fulfill. And so Move for Hunger makes it very easy for them to check that box. so they can show that they're engaging their residents, they're helping provide opportunities for them to give back and feel good and create community. For our freight and logistics companies and that network, we've seen that a lot of their focus is on sustainability, ESG, whatever you want to call it, environmental factors. So when we do our reporting to them, we include a lot of other metrics, not just how many pounds and how many meals, but also what does that mean in terms of carbon emissions and how that has impacted the environment through their participation with us. So I think one of the key things about partnerships at work is that you have to find ways to appeal to that sector or that company, that group. How are you going to help them reach their goals as well? So it's not just only about how they can help you in your work to end hunger, but how can you also provide something that is of value to them? One quote that we include in a lot of our presentations when we're talking to new movers, for example, or really any of the different sectors that we're involved in, is doing good is good for business. So if you think about that, if you're working at a company, of course, you're thinking of how much money are we going to make? What is the profit going to be on this? But doing good is good for business. So finding ways to engage your team in good and giving back, it's eventually only going to provide more business opportunities for you in the future. And for many, many of our partners, we've seen that to be true. So I'm going to go through a few different case studies here. The first one is Court. They are the largest furniture rental company in the country, and they have been a huge supporter of Move for Hunger. So Move for Hunger has made a lot of the connections in the moving industry, in the multifamily industry, by going to conferences and in-person events to meet people face-to-face and to tell the story about Move for Hunger and get them excited about working with us. So while going to different multifamily events, not only are we able to meet multifamily properties that might want to participate in our program, but we've also been trying to find ways to engage the suppliers, so other companies that are also involved in that space. We made a really great connection with Court a few years back, and they've been a huge supporter of Move for Hunger. So not only do they donate financially to Move for Hunger, but they help us transport food donations from our multifamily communities that are part of our program. So when a multifamily community has food, whether it's through a food drive or a resident has moved out, we either will call, if we have movers in the area, we'll call movers, or if there's a Court location in the area, we will call Court and say, hey, this property has this much food, would you be able to pick it up and deliver it to the food bank? And they've been absolutely amazing to work with. So they have delivered over 444,000 pounds of food throughout the US. And again, this is usually in small quantities, enough to fit in your car, like a general, run to the grocery store type of load. And it's a way that they're able to engage their team in charitable work. And it's also good for their business. So they're going in person to these multifamily communities and building relationships with those people as well that are collecting food throughout the year. So it's also a good practice for their business and has allowed them to gain some more business by making relationships with the communities that are part of our multifamily program. Another case study I want to highlight here is Just-in-Time Moving and Storage. This is a moving company that joined our network in 2019. They're located in Mesa, Arizona, and they help transport, food donations to and from the United Food Bank, which is our local food bank. And they originally joined just like any other moving company. They really wanted to get involved. They were finding ways to build trust in their brand. They loved the idea of collecting any food left behind that could be donated. They saw how much food was being left behind, and they were very excited to get involved in Move for Hunger. As we do with all of the movers that join our network, we connected them to their local food bank so they knew where to deliver the food, how to ask for a weight receipt, and make sure they knew where and who to talk to if they had food to deliver. They made such a great relationship with the staff at the United Food Bank that the food bank started telling them, hey, if you ever are available, we actually need a lot more transportation support. Sometimes we have donations that we don't have trucks available to go pick up, and then we lose out on them. Also, some of the pantries or smaller agencies that pick up from us don't have their own vehicles. And if you were able to take it to them, that would allow them to be able to distribute food a lot more frequently. And this team has totally stepped up. Since 2019, they have transported over 8 million pounds of food, just this one moving company, by connecting to their local food bank. So again, these are just everyday people doing their jobs, but we're so thrilled with the opportunity to give back and be engaged in this work that they took it to a whole nother level and made it part of who they are as a company, who they are as a team, how they operate, how they schedule their staff. And now it's just part of their work as a moving company. It's just part of their culture and part of their work as a company and as a team. The last case study I want to include here is the Society of St. Andrew. This is the nation's largest gleaning organization. So they organize volunteers to go to farms once the food has been harvested that is going to be sold. And so any leftover produce, they organize volunteers to go into the fields and pick and package that produce, all to be donated to hunger relief agencies. So I didn't highlight this earlier in the other slides when I was talking about our programs, but another key to our success has been collaborating with other food recovery organizations. A lot of times we worry about competition or maybe our teams aren't going to have the same ideas of how to work well together. But I feel like in this space, a lot of people have been very collaborative, and Society of St. Andrew is one of the several food recovery organizations that we've collaborated with, and it's been a huge success. We have the same goals. We just want to reduce food waste and we want to feed more people. And so if we have a certain strength and you have a certain strength, let's put our teams together and feed more people in the process. So we collaborate to deliver farm fresh produce. And just in the last couple of years that we have started working with Society of St. Andrew, over 6 million pounds of food have been diverted from waste that normally would just go to waste and have been delivered to hunger relief agencies across the US. In the first year that we worked with the Society of St. Andrew, they told us we saved them over $75,000 of transportation costs compared to the year before. So our strength is providing transportation. Their strength is organizing volunteers to go in the fields and maintain those relationships with the farmers. And so together we've been able to do so much together, again, by rescuing this food that otherwise would go to waste and making sure it gets to people who could actually use it and need it. So that's my last case study. This is supposed to be a workshop, so I don't want to make it all about Move for Hunger or all about me and my programs. So I at least wanted to leave with some questions to get your wheels turning. So I'm going to leave these questions on here for the next few minutes. As a reminder, you will get these slides after this presentation is done. So if you're not able to write them all down, you will have access to these slides afterwards. But just to get you thinking about your organization, your company, wherever you're coming from, what are your current gaps? It could be something big, it could be something small. We all know that, especially at nonprofits, we're understaffed and overworked. We don't always have the capacity to do all the things we want to do. So what are some of those current gaps? Do you wish that maybe you'd like to do more education, but your current team doesn't have that capability? Do you wish you could do more advocacy work? Do you really need more volunteer support? I don't know. What are your current gaps? What are some of your needs that you currently have? And then I want you to think about who already supports you. Who's already in your circle, whether it's personally, professionally, who really supports you that you know if you were to ask them, they would be open to ideas of how to further engage in your work. And you'll be surprised. We've had people, we've had supporters at Move for Hunger that say, hey, we have a packaging company and we love what you do. We would love to find ways to donate packaging. And so through that, we've been able to provide boxes to our movers with our logo or bags for food donation collection. So think about who already supports you and who might be interested in what you're already doing in the spaces that you're already in. So if you think about the audience that you're working with, or the people that are receiving your services, who would be interested in engaging with that audience? Those are probably people that you're not working with just yet. For example, if you work with children, if you're focused on senior adults, if you're focused on families, if you're focused on education and you're going into schools, what other community partners might be interested in what you're doing that would want to support you? And then how can you meet more people in those spaces or sectors? Maybe there are conferences or in-person events, virtual events. Maybe if you spend some time, you as an individual and your team, thinking about who do you know, even personally, that might be involved in some of those sectors that could make an introduction or give you an idea of some key events that they go to throughout the year to network and just meet people. Once you identify some people that you think might be able to collaborate with you and would be interested in engaging in your work, how can you appeal to their goals? What are some things that you can highlight of how they would benefit from working with you? So like I mentioned before, with the movers, we talk a lot about building trust in their brand, things they can share on their website, on social media, even including it into their email signatures about how they participate in Move for Hunger. In multifamily, we talk about resident engagement and CSR. With our freight and logistics companies, we highlight the environmental factors and sustainability. So when you think about people that could potentially further support or collaborate with the work that you're doing, how can you appeal to their goals? And then that ties into the last question, how can you share the impact? Because maybe as an organization, you're focused on how many meals you're providing, or you're focused on how many people you're educating, but maybe their goal is totally different. Maybe their goal is related to the environment or related to sustainability, or maybe they are more interested in hearing more about meals and not as much about education. Or maybe it's preventative. Maybe they're going to want to spin that in a way of this is how many people would have had to deal with this, or through this education, this is how many people we're preventing from going down this path. So we want to make sure that we're tailoring the conversations to not only our needs, but also how we can appeal to their goals and their interests in being involved in this work, and sharing the impact in a way that reflects that. So like I mentioned at Move for Hunger, we share the impact in different ways. Internally as an organization, we are focused on pounds and how many pounds of food we're moving and converting that into meals. But we also share other metrics depending on who we're talking to and what their interest is. All right, so like I said, you will have access to these slides after this presentation. I hope this gets at least gets your wheels turning to think outside the box. I think so often we're caught up in our day-to-day work and what needs to be done today and who are we currently working with and doing things the traditional way. But sometimes if you just take a step back and think, oh, we never thought about talking to this person about how they could further get engaged. I really think that you could find other people maybe already in your network or maybe that aren't in your network that would love to get involved in what you're doing and help make your job easier or help expand capacity on your team. I think we do have a few minutes for questions, but I just wanted to leave with this last thought. People want to help, you just have to show them how. And we've seen that definitely at Move for Hunger. Again, when you think of hunger relief, you're usually not thinking of moving and relocation companies, but they've been the backbone of our organization and have really helped us feed a lot more people and provide a lot more food to hunger relief agencies across the US and Canada. And so you just have to provide those opportunities for people. And there's a lot of people out there who would love to get involved with your work, with your organization, and also work to end hunger. So I'm happy to take some questions here. You're also welcome to reach out to me after. I'm leaving my email on this last slide. I'm Stephanie@moveforhunger.org. You're also welcome to check out our website at moveforhunger.org. I'm also on LinkedIn. If you would like to find me, I would love to connect and also keep up with the work that you're doing as well. I'm going to exit out of the slide so that we can see if there's any questions or anything that we can discuss before our time is up.